and just like garbage. That is actually a very big indicator and a marker when we're looking at femicide. And if you have seen from 2024 and even this year, other than intimate partner femicide, which is number one femicide in Kenya, 74 to 75% of femicide is actually intimate partners. And I would like people to keep on remembering this, because a lot of times it's sensationalized that, they went to an Airbnb and she was killed and so on. But a lot of times it is a case of GBV, and I will keep on saying femicide is a culmination of unchecked gender-based violence. When there is nothing that is, somebody has been abusing you consistently and constantly, threatening to kill you, they finally do it. And that's why we always say that femicide is wholly preventable. It's not like any other, homicide. Somebody comes in and shoots us, that just because you're women doesn't mean that was femicide.
True.
But femicide, if you think about it, is entirely preventable. If the government was serious about eliminating gender-based violence, then we would not look at femicide. So the onus is on the government to actually prevent. We did see the other day during a funeral where a woman was actually violated on the day when she was supposed to be burying her husband. And if it wasn't prevented, should have been killed.
Yes.
That would have been femicide. Do you start to see that femicide there's even cultural femicide. There is dowry-related femicide, where you're killed because somebody feels like, I paid dowry for you, I can do anything to you, I own you. And so many other subsets that are there. We've seen, for people like me, we've seen on a killing where a family feels like the girl did something wrong. And maybe she stepped out with somebody who's not of the same religion. And as such, she deserves to be killed. We have had women come stay with us entirely. This is also on a killing where she was threatened to be killed. She managed to run away, beaten very badly, and she stayed with us until we were able to get her asylum to leave this country, because the minute she should have stepped out, should have been killed by her family. They vowed. And yet you find that these people never get arrested, these cases never get to court, and nothing is entirely done.
Why? Why do we see such horrible things happening, and we don't see law enforcement coming into play?
Number one, there's a lot of cultural stigma when it comes to issues of gender-based violence. We don't report, we don't talk about it, and we really love turning a blind eye. It doesn't involve me. We have a famous saying in Kenya, mambo ya watu wawili wanajifunikia blanketi moja haituhusu. It's not my business. Your neighbor beats his wife. There's violence in that house. You've seen it. But, she goes back into that house, so I really don't want to be involved until she dies. And then we are called, and then people are like, unajua, alikuwa namchapa sana. We would hear her screaming. Now she's dead. But
why do you think our people behave in that way? Why do you think our people turn a blind eye or a deaf ear to something that is clearly wrong?
Because people, number one, especially when it comes to issues like intimate partner violence, domestic violence, you will find like people are like, I don't want to be involved because she's going to go back to her husband. And if she goes back to her husband, then I'll be left in the middle of it. That's one reason. The other reason is a lot of it is based on how we've grown up and how it is always a culture of silence around issues of, society, what we deem as societal issues. Like, if you really think about it, gender-based violence is an acceptable societal ill. He's beating his wife, but it's the wife. She's beating the child, but she's the child. So how is it my business?
So essentially, we condone gender-based violence.
We do.
See, when you talk about gender-based violence, let me just go into some stats that I've pulled up real quick. 170 women were victims of femicide in 2024. I will talk about femicide being an intentional killing of women just because they are women. And then we have 7,000 100 cases of gender-based violence that was reported the year 2023, and this is according to the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi. But even as we talk about all this, we know at a time in this country when women went to the streets to demand that justice is done by them, and the law enforcers, those who should be at the front in making sure that femicide cases, gender-based violence are dealt with or is eradicated in the society, were at the forefront in lobbing tear gas against people who are considered to be victims. Do we think, or is there hope that our police are able to deal with femicide cases and gender-based violence cases as should be done?
I will come back to say that the personal is political. It's a choice. They made a choice. I was on the street. I was one of the people they lobbied tear gas. I was one of the people they beat. And it was a choice. We were not out in the street being... You know what? The Constitution of Kenya allows us to be out on the street.
It does.
Demanding our rights as citizens to be heard. And as women, when we went out on the street, we were asking to be heard. And nobody was listening to us. Instead, we were beaten, we were tear gas, we were even arrested. The police know what the law looks like. So there is no excuse. You can't say you're a law enforcement officer who is supposed to keep the law, and then at the same time, you're the person on the street breaking the law. So they know that they should not have been on the street beating us. And what did the government do? They transferred the OCSs of Central or whatever it is that they did. That was it. Not an apology given to us, no compensation, no nothing. The government said absolutely nothing.
And yet, not too long before that, the president himself, the head of government, came out and said, look, this is an emergency, it must stop. He has a gender advisor in cabinet, right? And there was this wonderful sum of 100 million shillings that was then given out, and we saw women representatives who now were the vanguards of this kitty, and I don't know what was supposed to happen after that. If tents were set up in different counties where people were supposed to then now be able to come and report case, I don't even know what that was supposed to do. But then we did hear some noise, there was some rumblings of something, and I don't know. I guess my question is throwing money at the problem going to solve it? Is it a money issue? Is it a money issue that resources are being sought after to be able to handle this thing of women being killed as a result of, number one problem being relational issues? Is it going to solve the problem?
First of all, any of the number of the people that I saw being given that 100 million have nothing to do with femicide. Never heard of them. Never had them speaking about gender-based violence. Never had them speaking about femicide. Let's start from there. Most of them wouldn't even give you the definition of what femicide is. How the money was going to be used or was used, because we don't know, was to set up tents in different counties and talk to women.
Barazas was, yeah.
Set up barazas and give the women a little bit of fare, soda, and a scarf. That is how the money was going to. Please tell me how that is going to help. You're talking to the people who are already victimized. That's number one. You're not talking to the people who are the would-be perpetrators. Most importantly, if it is a resource problem, shouldn't the resource then be used to actually help? The government of Kenya does not have any shelters or safe houses, places of refuge, where if I am, let's say, for example, I've managed to escape from my house, from nearly being killed, and I'm seeking a place. Let's say I go to a police station. Do you know what happens to a victim?
Yes. And unfortunately,
let's just say I'm reporting it's in the middle of the night. Do you know where the police would put me?
Cell.
Thank you. I would go into a cell.
The purpose of your being put in the cell is so that what happened?
For safety.
I see. And these cells, which have other people already?
Yes. So if you're seeking safety in Kenya today as somebody who's running away from an issue of gender-based violence, that is if they live and listen to you. I have rescued a girl who was in a cell together with her grandmother.
What had they gone to the police?
She had been raped.
Oh dear.
and it was in the middle of the night, and there was no resources for the police to actually take her to hospital. So they called me. So I came and I found them in the cell, and I took them.
Who called you, the police?
Yes, they do sometimes do call me.
Ah, so they know you.
A little bit, yes.
If you were to provide an alternative suggestion, how should the 100 million have been used?
Can you imagine? I think people don't understand how under-resourced, because I'm always in police stations, and because I've also followed the budget line to understand how the police are resourced, how under-resourced police are. Can you imagine what would have happened if that money was used to reinforce and resource the gender desks? Even provide psychosocial support to police themselves. Because I see the things I see, but I'm able to go and get therapy. I also assume the same thing happens to the police in the station. Can you imagine if they had even bothered? 100 million can give you a shelter.
Yeah.
Or if they had even bothered to come to people like us who are not in government and told us, hey, because Njeri, you run a safe house for women, how can we as the government help capacity build your shelter? Maybe additional beds, maybe give you a psychosocial support so that the women who come here can be given psychosocial support. What if they did that in all the 47 counties? To ensure that there is a place of refuge and a place of safety where people can run to. But no, the government didn't do that.
If such a thing were to happen, under which ministry would these activities take place?
The one that doesn't have a CS.
Yeah.
The one that doesn't have a CS?
Yes.
Gender.
Gender. Doesn't have a CS?
No.
Really?
Yes.
What happened?
We don't know.
One was
Did
never
it ever have a CS?
It did.
It did in the other regime.
Oh, I see.
So we have a ministry without a CS.
But we have a PS?
Yes.
Yes.
I think so, yes.
No, we do.
I should hope so.
No, I know we do.
Yeah,
I know we do. So who does she report?
That's a good question.
Anyway, that was me.
So I think
wife.
that also just tells you how issues of gender, and you see, gender is not just women, how issues of gender are taken in this country. It's very lightweight. If there is no direction, the head that gives direction going downward, then who cares? And actually, a lot of times you'll find that ministry is where civil servants go before they leave government.
Right. So is that why more women, and I, please hear how I'm asking this question. And is that why more and more women are being killed in this manner? Because there's no attention, there's no consequence. Very few of the cases that we've seen, let's just take the 22 from this year alone. How many of those perpetrators have been brought to book? Have they been found? Are they in trial? Have they been punished? These are 22 lives. We're not saying that would be fatalities. We are saying women who are dead. We're not talking about the ones who've been attacked or, abused or beaten. These are women who are dead. So if we do not see that, the department that should be actually taking care of these gender issues, and it's, again, like you said, it's not, gender is not women. Gender is gender, across board. If this is not happening at the very top, is that not why more are being killed? Because nobody's going to do anything. It's not going to be given attention.
No one cares. We're just there shouting and speaking. We have, the beginning of 2024, we held a march. And in this march, we gave demands to the government and told them what we expected the government to do. And why it was important for the government to actually recognize femicide as a national crisis. And as a person who is in gender-based violence, I keep on saying we need to recognize gender-based violence as a national crisis.
After the 100 million shillings was given, did we hear anything else?
No.
Because you know what happens constitutionally is that when you declare something an emergency, what you essentially have done is that you've unlocked the permission for resources then to be spent.
Thank you.
That's what you've done. But now, after those resources have been spent, what happens?
Number one, it was never declared a crisis. Number two, there is no research that has been put. There is nothing that has been done other than setting up a task force, which is Kenya's answer to any problem. We set up a task force. We know, everybody in this room knows, the task force are essentially just an answer for the government to tell you shut up. And then a report will finally, if ever, will finally come out and it will be shelved. And the government will say they have actually tackled the crisis of femicide. There is an educational task force, isn't there? There's a task force for anything. You mentioned it, there is. I'm pretty sure there's a task force for anything. Anytime the government feels threatened, you're now coming down on us this side. Let's set up a task force. And when you ask, what does this task force solve? There is never an answer. We don't need another task force. We already know what needs to be done. That 100 million could have simply been used to conduct a very robust campaign all the way down to the grassroots, all the way down to the villages, to the barazas, to speak about gender-based violence. Because there are people who have normalized gender-based violence, as you have seen when I was talking about that funeral. They were able to beat that woman without feeling like there would be consequences.
Because she didn't throw soil on her husband's grave.
Exactly. They made her eat soil. This woman had a CS and they beat her, and so many, I don't even want to talk about it.
100 million is a one-off.
But that was it.
Yes, but the problems that we are speaking of are not a one-off.
No.
They are recurring problems. So a one-off can't actually even begin to solve the problem, can
No.
it?
It goes to speak about the government being intentional in handling matters to do with gender-based violence. I know we're going for a break, but even as we go for that break, let's just remember that in this country, to handle a femicide case, it takes 1,900 days, 4 years for a case to be concluded.
Let's go to a break. Okay. We're looking at the femicide issue in the country today. Has been declared an emergency. A task force has been set up. I don't even know who is on this task force. 100 million shillings so far has been spent. I don't know what were the results of that particular kitty that was put out. I don't know that anything has been said. Have we heard anything that has come from the gender advisor to cabinet? I don't know if we've heard anything from that. But this is the conversation that we're having this morning with Njeri Migwi, who is a human rights defender. And we're looking at the disaster that is femicide in Kenya today, and if something actually is going to be done about it. Let's take a break and take a look at what's happening with weather and traffic. And then we'll come back after this and continue with this conversation. It is 26 minutes to 8.
Daily Nuggets with ZD Money Market Fund. Taking control of your finances starts with a plan. Pataka kitu kila siku na ZD Money Market Fund powered by M-Pesa. Start investing directly from your M-Pesa. Opt in via M-Pesa app or dial *334#.
Grow your money daily with ZD Money Market Fund, powered by M-Pesa. Opt in on your M-Pesa app or dial *334# today. Terms and conditions apply.
Peekaboo! Ready to come out of your hiding closet this school break holiday? The Standard Media Group is taking you to the ultimate fun day spree. That's right, the Club Kiboko Kids Festival is back! It's going to be bigger, louder, and more fun than ever. Are you really going to miss a spectacular family fun day at Ulinzi Sports Complex Langata on April 12, 2025? I don't think so. Join hundreds of kids just like you for thrilling games, crafts, live performances, and so much more. Get your tickets now before it's too late. Only 500 shilling for kids and 300 shilling for adults on tickethub.co.ke. Hurry, tickets are selling fast. Bring your brothers, sisters, friends, and parents, and let's have some fun bonding day.
Chunga tickets usikuishe.
The Club Kiboko Festival. Miss it, miss out.
When elections have faults or fault lines that are not reformed, over time, governments lose legitimacy, but also citizens lose their free will as to who should govern them, and this is a definition of sovereignty. So once this contract is tampered with, you find that there is no safeguard for civil and political rights as well as socio-economic rights for the citizens in our countries.
And taking a bite of your favorite food, as cold or hot as it may be, and worry about tooth sensitivity. You don't have to imagine that anymore, because it can actually be a reality for you. And how will it be? Well, it will be because of Sensodyne. And how do we actually know this? Well, we know this because Sensodyne is the #1 brand recommended by dentists, and you don't have to worry about just imagining anymore. And again, a happy mouth is a happy mind. So as you think about that, think about Sensodyne, and it's giving you absolute relief from tooth sensitivity and a great oral health. We're looking at the issue of femicide in the country today, and 2024 was called the worst year for femicide in Kenya, with 170 women dying. 76% of those are intimate partner issues, that somebody has taken a life because of what they thought to be infidelity, or somebody has jealousy has played out here, and other things have come out as a result of that. The question is, what are we going to do? What are we going to do, Jerry?
But even as we talk about the meaning, I mean the reality of femicide, and we even have talked about what brings it about. What we are discussing is not what brings it about. The increase in the reports and the incidences of femicide have reached. The proportions are alarming. When every other day you read about something and you have to wonder, what about things that have happened and we don't know about and we haven't read about?
Absolutely.
So, to your question, we clearly have a femicide problem.
Yes, we do.
Now, there is solving the problem as we see it now, and there's ensuring that this is not something that becomes entrenched in our culture, because the normalization of violence against women contributes significantly to this.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And neither can we say, there will be a lot that you have to going to do to convince me that those who are taking the lives of these women are okay on the mental health spectrum. You cannot convince me that because we've seen some brutality take place when we're talking about the deaths of these women. It is not easy. We've seen testimonies of people who've killed, and they talk about the fact that it's not an easy thing to do, to take another life. It's not. So you too cannot be on that space where we say you're going to kill somebody and wake up tomorrow morning and walk around as though something is okay. So what am I trying to say here is that there's a deeper issue that we are not looking at here. That what takes you to that point where you take another life, whether it is a woman, whether it is a man, whether it is a child. But these are now compounded by other issues whereby maybe you are in an intimate relationship with this person and you have seen that the best solution at this time is to take the life of this woman. Wouldn't you see that that's a problem?
I am a very big person on mental health. But I'm also keenly aware that punishment is a deterrent to crime. And before we went on break, he said it takes 1,900 and something days for a femicide case to end. And I want to break your heart to tell you, I have so many pending cases and nothing, they're on mention. And I will start with a case that is very personal to me because I got the body. And this is 9-year-old Mary Wamboi, killed in Kayole by a 33-year-old and a 36-year-old, brothers who were the children of the landlord of that building where she was killed. They lured her, they sent her to go and buy something for them. They got her into the house, they raped her, they killed her.
9-year-old?
Yes, 9-year-old. I was speaking to her mother yesterday evening. And we are in court. We've been in court for 2 years. and the case has never moved beyond mention.
Sorry.
We've been before 3 judges, and the case has never moved beyond mention.
So for clarity, when we're talking about a court a mention, is that it comes before all the parties that are in the case come before court. The court comes and says acknowledgements that there is a complainant and that these are the individuals who've been named then as defendants, and we will now hear this case on said date.
Yes.
That is a mention.
Yes.
And everybody goes home.
Yes.
All right.
And so what happens is once it has been mentioned, it's supposed to go into hearing. So for 2 years, we've never gone into hearing. We are into the 3rd year this year, and the case has never gone beyond mention.
Let me ask
That's
you-
just one case.
I mean, I have to ask this question. We're using this 9-year-old was lured by these 2 individuals
Yes. They lived in the same plot, yes.
because their father owned the building they lived in, or
The reason I'm saying that is because they were the children of the owner of that building.
Yes.
And he used his money and power to, one, ensure one of his sons disappeared. And the other son is in Mathare Hospital under claims of his...
Mentally unstable.
Yes.
Okay. It's femicide, so this child died.
Yes.
She was raped and killed.
Yes.
We say it because it's important.
She was raped and she was killed. And by the time the people came to report to us, because our office is near there, I removed her from under that bed because they stuffed her under the bed. You see, her mom was looking for her. The only reason her mom found her in that house is because she saw her Crocs outside the door. And so she knocked. And when she knocked, nobody answered. So she tried to open the door. She said, no, you can put in your hand and open ile konje. And she saw blood and she couldn't proceed. So they started screaming and we were alerted and we came. The girl was under the bed with naitanga nini? Njora. You know, here to here. It's one of the most painful deaths that I have seen. Yeah, embedded in her. And that is how she died. And we have never seen justice. So if there is no justice for people, for Mama Wabui, we are in court. We've never been heard.
I do agree with you that...
And a lot of the 170 cases that you mentioned from last year, only 30 are in court. So there are 140 people in this country who have killed somebody and they're just walking around.
Absolutely.
We have people in this government who are in court because of claims of femicide. Sharon Atieno and her unborn baby deserve a mention in this table because nothing has ever happened. And yet the person who is assumed to be the perpetrator was voted not once but twice in government. And nothing has ever moved that case. Even though the court declared last year or this year, that he had a case to answer to.
Yeah.
But how long did it even take for us to say there is a case to answer to?
Okay. There is, okay. Of course, it's awash with comments this morning. Just taking a look at our socials today. And one Duncan Ondimo is asking that we provide the case number for the Kayola case. He would like to follow up on that.
Okay.
So maybe that's something that we can share, just the case number at least.
Okay.
And there's nothing wrong with making that public. And just looking at it's just that it is despicable, and that's when we have to say that something can be window dressed, because that, in my opinion, and I think we need to call them out for what it is, that something can be window dressed and some money be thrown at it, and the assumption is that something is done. But this is the reality from what you're saying. If 170 just from 2024 have been recorded, that's what has been recorded. We do not know how many more have died in last year. We don't know. That's
And
the
just
truth.
another that the bodies in Kware are not included in the 170.
In the 170. All right. Now, if only 30 of those cases have gone to court, I have to ask myself, in what warped world, if you're just going to take this 9-year-old precious person as an example and say that her case has just been given a mere mention in court. It's been 2 years going on 3. I also do believe that one of that punishment is a deterrent to further criminal activity. But if we don't see that happening, then we are going to see more numbers of people dying. That's just the truth. That anybody who looks at the scenario and says, well, I'm in a difficult place and I need to snuff this life out of this person, the likelihood of me being arrested or anything happening to me is very low, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. Or even at the very least threaten it. And that is the society that we are breeding. Those are the people that we are breeding. By not doing anything about these cases, we are breeding a society of people who then find it easy to take life. And it comes back to the question that I ask until these two gentlemen probably get tired of me asking. What value are we placing on human life? And not just as the people who take the life, but the people who have the power to do something about it. What value are we placing on human life? If we can answer that question, then it will be easy for us to say, well, then let's put a rush on these cases. Let's make sure that security apparatus are up and running. Let's make sure that security agencies are actually doing what they're supposed to do. Let's make sure that you can walk into a police station and ask for a P3 and nobody's going to ask you for a sexual favor, because that's exactly what we're talking about here.
Remember, we have a situation where successive governments have shown us that every time the citizenry raise an issue, there is a response. Yes, you have a gender issue, you're given a gender desk. Problem solved. If you have some other issue, you're told we are going to set up this. It is set up. Finished. Because we've raised this issue in this studio before. The police service, the policemen and women who serve in it are terribly, terribly, terribly resourced.
Yeah.
And imagine someone who's terribly resourced, and yet the burden of dealing with all these things rests on their shoulders. This is what they deal with.
On a daily basis.
Yes. Plus many other things. Picking up dead bodies, picking up rotting bodies, every single day. So let me ask, on a scale of 1 to 10, when somebody comes with a case that there's been violence and somebody has been beaten, where do you think this will fall in order of priority? They will listen and say, oh, okay.
Is it more difficult because, and is it more difficult to deal with a lot of these cases because they're multi-layered? And I say multi-layered in this sense that there's the legal aspect, there's the law, but then there's also the cultural aspect. There's also tradition. There's also the thing of, whatever happens between me and you in a relationship is nobody else's business. So there's so many layers to this thing. So then it becomes difficult. And I put difficult in quotes because we have heard cases where, police will say, well, you only mambo and your money. We cannot come in between that. And maybe you guys need to now be able to sort that in. Does this make it more difficult to then be able to deal with these cases?
For the cultural context, yes, because 2 weeks ago I was dealing with a case of a 1-year-old who was once again raped and killed.
9-year-old again.
One year old.
Actually, she turned 1 the day she was being buried. And yeah.
1-year-old.
Yeah. That's
Not
where we
yet
are.
one.
And I have to say that context was very deep because this girl was 13 when she got pregnant, 14 when she gave birth, the mother of the child. And she lived, her people gave out to get married.
Excuse me?
To the person who they said was responsible for the pregnancy.
Who was also another teenager. So this is just a terrible situation all around. So they were kids, they're kids. So they didn't get along. There was also a lot of familial interference and so on and so forth. This girl couldn't go back home, so she got the nearest person to marry her. So this is a person who defiled her baby. I want you to realize this is a 14-year-old with a baby who does not even know that her baby is being defiled.
No, a 14-year-old is a baby.
Yes.
Still.
So she kept on saying, my baby is crying, there's something wrong. And so she was told, Tufanya mambo, take this child back to your people. Where you are married. They need to see, could be the reason that this baby keeps on crying. So she takes the baby back to where she was married before. They are the people who discover. So the mother-in-law takes the kid to the hospital and they discover that the child has been defiled over and over again. But this time, it was too bad. They did take the child to hospital, but she died that night. Do you know what they did? Nobody reported. The child was buried. Now. And, they tried to do mambo ya kinyumbani, reconcile the 14-year-old and the 15-year-old. It's crazy. The whole story is insane. But these are things we hear on a daily basis. And I can't even start to explain the context when it comes to that. Because it's culture, I don't even know. There's a lot. That whole case has really messed my head because that child was buried.
But what does it say about us as a nation, as a people?
That's what I'm asking.
Because the police service, them I can understand, because the very things that happen to them they are violated. Them, they are actually mistreated.
I'm in complete agreement.
Yes. So by the time such a person is being put in charge of other people, what do you think they are going to? They're going to violate people as well. The yardstick from whence they come, or from whence they approach issues, is one that already has taken a complete left turn simply because of what they experience in their lives on a daily basis. It's like they don't have any protection for themselves. Now, you come to the citizenry, and it's like we ourselves have also been violated and abused to the point where instead of calling out something and saying, this is wrong, you need to take a stand, you ask the parents of these two teenagers,
God forbid,
what on earth is the matter with these people? A child getting pregnant
is violation enough. Let's start from there.
That child's life has already changed in the most dramatic way possible. And the parents decide that the best thing to do is to marry the 14-year-old to the 15-year-old. So you have to ask, what happened to these parents? What
trauma do they go through?
What are they walking around with?
And then you see, City, when you even go to report such cases, most of the time you go to gender desk, polycare was set up, but you get there
was
and
what?
Polycare. Then again, you get there and you're being asked to please narrate the ordeal afresh. So you have to relieve it before the police officers, before they get the statement.
The people who man those desks should actually have some psychosocial training. Psychosocial counseling training, because
I want you to imagine, I'm telling you this as somebody who deals with gender-based violence and goes to those police desks and finds other people waiting with other cases. So by the end of the day, they've listened to so many cases, unless yours is actually really, really bad. The one that they're like, walifanya mtoto vibaya. I promise you, half the time they're already frustrated. Because you've listened to somebody who was beaten, you've listened to somebody who was raped. This is the reason they tell you, come with your rapist.
Come with your rapist.
Yes, they do. Mwenye alikufanyia hivyo ako wapi?
Ukienda umuone, tupigie simu.
So you have to go convince them to come to police.
No, just the absurdity. The absurdity of such a request.
Even those 170 cases of femicide are the ones that are recorded. The ones that are not recorded
is crazy.
Are minimal.
Jerry, I need to ask you this because we're not even working at cross purposes. We're in different galaxies here when it comes to the real issues of what is happening, the women that are dying. And when we say women here, we're talking about a 1-year-old baby.
Yes.
We're talking about a 90-year-old grandmother, because it does go across the spectrum. So when we have a government who has a gender advisor that sits at high cabinet level, we have an entire ministry doesn't have a CS. We have security agencies who tell you to come with your perpetrator, and then we have 100 million shillings thrown at women reps and say, set up and give somebody a handkerchief and an armband and have a baraza, and then that's done. But then we have the reality on the ground. We have all those things happening, ribbons and flowers, but then we have the reality on the ground. And we say we need to stop it. Every now and then somebody will give a speech and say, stop, end femicide. But what's the message that we're trying to put across today for real, for us to understand exactly what's going on and what really needs to be done? In my opinion, we'd rather not touch it at all than to pretend that we're doing something about it.
Yes.
But what's your message today?
that femicide is real, it's a crisis, and it needs to be addressed with urgency. Because one more woman dying because of something that is entirely preventable. If this was a pandemic, if these numbers were read the way the numbers for COVID used to be read, we would be in crisis. If Ebola came to Kenya and in 6 weeks, mid-February, that's when the numbers are higher than that, by the way, far, far higher than that. We should be at 40-something. We're being read. The way we read, we would be very, very worried because everybody would be like, oh my God, it would be me next. But we don't have that. We don't even get the sense of the urgency. I remember when Seth Nyakeo died, and she's a daughter of an MCA. And even to date, her killer has not yet been arrested. That's a woman in power. And the killer of her daughter has not been arrested. What does that say about the rest of us and the kind of danger that we are all living in? And if we don't treat gender-based violence, I will start there because, once again, what we are seeing is the apex when it comes to gender-based violence is femicide. And after femicide is always genocide. I just hope people know this, that we normalize the killing of women. That is how, once we start seeing women as disposable, that is when you start seeing children being disappeared and being killed, and then men. I hope we take this with the weight that it carries. This is actually a political crisis, and the government should not be in power if their citizenry are being killed and they do absolutely nothing about it. Giving us toothless promises is not going to end femicide. We need the government to mount a robust campaign to explain what is gender-based violence, what are the consequences. We need to see cases moving in court. We need to see action. We are tired of speaking. We need to see things start to move.
How can folks support the work that you do, Jerry? I mean, it sounds crazy that we have to say, okay, fine, there's government in place and things should be done, but how can folks support the work that you do?
I say this, we have 3 ways in which we ask for support. One of them is we need your money. We can't do these things without your money. It takes money to go to police stations, to bury people. We bury women. Some of these women killed by femicide, we as Usikimi have buried them. We have a pay bill, please contribute. You have skills, give them to us. You have time, come and volunteer.
It's a tough one to have it in the headlines, but then to actually interrogate it, it's tough. And the hope is that really something has to be done. Cannot continue like this. We absolutely cannot. We want to thank you for being strong on another day to come in and have a conversation with us about the work that you do and the things that need to be done in this country. Jerry Migwe is a human rights activist and runs Usikime Kimye. And we've been talking about gender-based violence. We've been talking about femicide and the disaster that it is in this country. And the hope is that something will start to click. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.